This video is sponsored by Marvel Strike Force, a fast-paced superhero mobile game now available on Android and iOS. Today we're going to be talking about tools that will help Dungeon Masters get organized and save time. The fact of the matter is that organization saves time over the long term. Yes, there is an upfront cost, but ultimately organization saves you time and helps you improve your D&D games. I know that I personally run much better games when I'm organized. Alright, first we're going to talk about digital tools that you can use, and for that we're going to go over to the computer.
Number one, OneNote or Evernote. Alright, so basically OneNote is pretty cool. It allows you to organize things in a lot of different ways, and my understanding is that Evernote is mostly the same type of idea, though I haven't really used it a whole lot. But anyway, we're going to talk about OneNote today and how I organize all of almost everything for my campaigns in OneNote. First of all, you can see here over on the left-hand side that you can organize things by notebooks in Evernote. I keep saying Evernote. I mean OneNote. OneNote, ladies and gentlemen. Here we have things for my Waterdeep campaign setting, things for Feywild, things for things for the Wood of Dark Teeth, the Dark Shards. Any campaign setting has its own OneNote notebook for me. Also, each of my individual campaigns I'm running have their own notebook. Ancient Dragon campaign, Curse of Strahd, Wonder Panda, Younglings. Some of these I don't run anymore, but they're still here because why throw them out? And we're gonna pop over here to the Ancient Dragon campaign, and you can see here that across the top we have a whole bunch of different tabs as well that we can organize things within a notebook. And each of these tabs has, over here to the far right, a whole bunch of pages that we can have within it. And so lots of different levels of organization that is possible within OneNote. All right, so basically, besides organizing things by campaigns, settings, and the campaigns that I run, I also have some other things like D&D house rules that I use, my skill challenge system, spell dueling, and that sort of thing. This allows me to quickly find stuff when I need it during my games. I just pull it up on my iPad or my computer, and I have my house rules that I can reference. Let's take a look at a campaign setting. Let's go to Waterdeep. Here I have a whole bunch of information about the wards of Waterdeep. Over here I had random encounters I had devised for Waterdeep. There are different groups and factions, the different pages, Dragondareth, Emerald Enclave, Force Grey, a whole bunch of notes that I had created. Some of these are more elaborate than others. I really just make up what I need and put them in the OneNote. If we take a look at the Dark Shards, here I am developing my own domain of dread. So I have overview, different things about the Dark Tongue, crime and punishment, the different locations within that domain of dread, all the different dark bastions within the domain of dread. By the way, if you're in my Ancient Dragon group, you should stop looking at this right now. Ruin your game here. NPCs and groups, Zetirth and her 9 champions of darkness, the Dark Priesthood, all the different things, different points of interest that I have in that game. Really, if you're in that game, you should stop and leave right now because it's gonna ruin it for you. But just tons and tons of different notes. And here's the thing, I can make these notes before the game begins to inform my gameplay, during my planning, obviously, and I can also make little tiny notes as I go along during gameplay. And of course, after the game is over, I'm also making notes in OneNote based on what happened during the game session. All right, let's take a look at an individual D&D campaign. We're gonna pick on the Ancient Dragon campaign again. I do a whole bunch of stuff in here to keep things organized. The very first thing is that I literally have a page of notes for every single session that I run. I keep track of different things that happened in the last session. And then at the very end of the session, I take a whole bunch of notes as well, things that happened during that session, so that I can remember it for the next time. And I literally have all the way back to when this campaign began on September 11th, 2019, my very first session notes for our Ancient Dragon campaign. I have information about Acquisitions Incorporated because we are running that sort of campaign. My group has taken possession of several different places: Troll Skull Manor, the Sweet Tooth Bakery, an alchemy lab, the Sloshing Boot Tavern, and I keep notes on all of these different properties that the group owns. I have notes on groups and NPCs that they have come across in the game. I have notes on campaign planning, a demonic plot, downtime activities that they have taken, and random encounters and points of interest that I have devised.
Okay, Mr. Dungeon Master, we know what we're going to do now. Oh, okay, awesome. What are you guys gonna do then?
Wait a second. What were you doing on your phone?
Oh, just, taking some notes about the game session.
Oh, really? Well, this right here sure looks like Marvel Strike Force to me.
Holy
Okay, you guys were all taking forever discussing what you were going to do next, and I'm this close to unlocking Elektra. She's one of my favorite Marvel characters. Elektra is going to give my squad of heroes an edge against the hand, and get us even closer to taking out Ultimus.
What? That's as far as you are? I unlocked the Hulk the other day. Hulk smash is way better than Elektra's tiny little knives, and I have the Hulk all tweaked out and ready to go on an alliance raid.
Oh, this is awesome! Now even our dungeon master's playing Marvel Strike Force during our D&D games.
I mean, it's hard not to. Marvel Strike Force is just a really fun game, and it's completely free to play.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love how I can assemble my own squad of hand-picked superheroes and villains, get awesome gear, and even level them up. It's actually a lot like D&D.
Heck yeah! And the ongoing narrative of the heroes as they face off against Ultimus and his minions brings an amazing level of immersion to the game.
Yeah, I think it's quite possible that Marvel Strike Force is even better than D&D.
What was that now?
Holy crap, you're screwed!
Number 2, Word or Google Drive. Okay, I store all of my Word docs that I create for my D&D campaigns on Dropbox because that way it syncs across devices. I mean, Google Drive has the same native sort of syncing as well, so you could use Google Drive if you wish to as well. And Google Drive has like free storage up to a certain point too, so you have that going for you. Anyway, things that I use Word docs for. Let's just take a look at my Sword Coast Guard campaign that I ran a while ago. That campaign has ended, so there's no risk of showing people what's in there. There are no current players, we're now playing other games. The biggest thing that I use Word docs for is creating adventures for the campaign. For instance, right here, if we go into the main quest arc, we are going to find a whole bunch of little folders here that have various adventures that I created for this game. Let's go into Snagjaw Castle Revisited. And here we're going to find a Word document. We'll just open that bad boy up and get it on screen here. This right here is an adventure I created after my group TPK'd on their first journey to Snagjaw Castle, and now they're going back through it again trying to defeat these creatures that killed their first party. And so it's just got a bunch of my notes, things that I created for this adventure. Basic notes, mostly just bullet points. Sometimes I have a little bit of read aloud text, but mostly I'm just creating bullet points and important stuff to inform the gameplay. About a whole, like 7 pages of notes, not that big of a deal here. But Word documents for all of my notes, and as you can see, I have these Word documents, lots of these things here for all the different adventures that I created for my Sword Coast Guard campaign. I will also use Word documents to create handouts for the group. For instance, if we go on over here, we can go to this Word document here called Party Magic Items, and I literally was creating pages that I would print off and hand out to the players for all of the magic items they were getting. Wand of Magic Missiles, a dagger +1, and I would, I'd just take little images off Google as well for what it looked like and stuff. Google Goggles of Night, Ring of Fire Resistance, just print it off, give it to your players, different handouts. And if I were to create other types of handouts as well, for instance, a letter that they received from Lord Paxton, I would use Google Doc for that as well. Now, technically, if you wanted to, instead of organizing things through OneNote or Evernote, you could organize things through a whole bunch of different Word docs and file structures on your computer. That's probably going to be a lot more complex, but it could definitely be done. Number 3, other online tools. Okay, so those are basically the tools that I use predominantly online when planning things for my game prep, taking notes, all that kind of good stuff. However, there are lots of other tools that you can use to keep yourself organized and reduce your game prep time, reduce time at the table, reduce time afterwards, just make things easier for yourself. Now, I don't use a whole lot of other tools for that purpose, but when I asked people what they use, I got a lot of suggestions. Things like Obsidian Portal or Fantasia Archive. I have no idea what those are. I'm just throwing them out there. You could use a private Discord server if you wanted. I heard somebody mentioning World Anvil. It helps with world creation and stuff. I don't know these products. I've never used them before, so they may be good or they may not be good. But what we could probably do here is if you go down in the comments and let us know what tools you use for organization for your games to help you speed things up and save time, we could probably turn the comment section of this video into a sort of archive and library of online resources that different people could find and use in their games. Also, if you want to give me a quick thumbs up to let YouTube know that I don't suck, I would appreciate that.
Now we're going to talk about physical tools you can use for your D&D games. Number 1, folders. I mean, folders are cool. You can store things like character sheets adventure printouts, player handouts, index cards, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and yeah, pretty much anything you want to put in a folder to keep it safe and organized, you can put in a folder, and they're super cheap. You can usually get packs of 5 or something for $1. Good time to go shopping for folders is during school supply season because things go on sale. Number 2, notebooks. I know, we're just really going over all of the really high-tech stuff here that nobody knows about. I know. What I use my notebooks for is to write down information during the game. The date and the time so I can keep track of the calendar. I might jot down death saving throws, spell durations, NPC names that I make up on the fly and I want to make sure that I don't forget about. Now for that sort of thing, I'll take a quick note on the fly in the notebook, and then later on I'll transfer it over to OneNote and flesh things out a little bit, perhaps so I can keep better track of things. And that applies to a lot of these notes I take in my notebooks. Actually, I'll take a quick note in the notebook and the moment because it's faster during a game to write in a notebook, and then later on I'll take more permanent notes in OneNote so that I always have them handy. Number 3, binders. I used to use a lot of binders back in the past before I found OneNote, and of course once I found OneNote, I quickly transitioned to it. But if you don't want to use OneNote and you want to have physical things, binders are wonderful. Basically, what I would do is I'd use them to hold notes and other things that I now put in OneNote, because I just mentioned that. But yeah, I have these like plastic insert sheets that I could just put pieces of paper in, and they go in the binder and stuff. I would organize it. I'd have those little tabs on the binder as well that would label different sections of the binder so I could find things easily. I'd have lots of stuff in these binders. My campaign notes, my world setting notes, notes about NPCs, notes about weather, just like anything could go in these binders. It's pretty versatile. Number 4, 4x6 index cards, or 3x5, different sizes and stuff, but the bigger ones I think are more useful than the tiny ones. The tiny ones, it's like, what am I gonna get on a 3x5? 3x5 is like, so 4x6 is my preference. Anyway, you could use them for quick reference information that you don't need or want a full sheet of paper for. For instance, you could put NPC information on them, the name, the race, role-playing notes, that sort of thing. You could write down information about the characters on little note cards, the names, languages spoken, their passive perception, armor class, etc. And then you just have that little note card in front of you when you're running your game, and you can reference it when needed, when you need to know that stuff. Now, some people like to use note cards to create adventure notes on, encounter notes, and all that sort of thing. I'm probably too much of a planner for that sort of thing to work for me. I need to make my adventures in like Word documents and put my little notes in OneNote because it's more organized and not like a bunch of little tiny note cards floating all over the place that I get lost. But lots of people do use them for that, so not knocking it, I guess. Number 5, Post-its. You could, jot down quick notes and probably transfer them to a more permanent medium at some point. But yeah, just fill your DM screen and stuff with Post-it notes. Have them all over the place, I guess, if you want. I don't know how in the world you manage that, but it's a possibility. Number 6, whiteboards. Okay, now this is something I actually use, I find useful. I'm talking about like, the Post-it notes and knocking them because I don't think they're that great. But whiteboards I use and they are wonderful. Whiteboards are great for keeping track of transient information during a game session. That's information that's going to be changing constantly. Whiteboard, you can wipe it and rewrite it and stuff and change stuff. It's great. Things like initiative, the date and the time, spell durations, that sort of thing. Now, I personally have 2 whiteboards that I use during my game sessions. The first whiteboard that I use is my initiative tracking board. It has a bunch of little labels on it for the different initiative numbers, and then I have magnets with the names of the characters and the monsters on it, and when we roll initiative, I just place these things where they need to go according to the initiative that was rolled. And then I have a blank board that I keep in front of me where I keep track of the date and the time, and I'll update it constantly, and this is where the players can see it, so they can see the date and time being updated. And I will also write on it things like spell durations, or if somebody has been cursed or something, as long as that's public knowledge and not some hidden thing that I'm trying to keep a secret from my players, so that everybody can see it and we can keep track of those things. Number 7, magic item sheets. I like creating simple handouts for magic items and giving them to players who have those magic items. And this serves 2 purposes. First of all, it gives the players information about what the magic magic item does, and I don't have to look it up, they don't have to look it up, and we don't gotta worry about it. It also helps players to not forget that they have the magic item, because when you got a big piece of paper with the magic item's name and what it does in front of you versus having it written down somewhere on your character sheet, like one's easier to remind you that I actually have the thing and they might use it, as opposed to forgetting that they even have it, which happens a lot in games. And for a dungeon master, it's useful for me because I can literally look at all of the characters' character sheets and magic item piles, and I'll know what magic items they have. So if I'm planning on giving out new magic items and I want to see who has what and who might need a couple magic items or something, I can plan that out a little bit better. Easy visual reference. Now, if you'd like to save even more time as a dungeon master, you really should check out Lair magazine. It's a monthly publication full of easy to use D&D 5th edition resources, adventures, digital maps, traps, puzzles, and more that all DM Lair patrons receive. Or you could just binge on some more DM Lair videos like these two right here, or play yourself some Marvel Strike Force.